In this video, I want to talk about the new bomb defusal game called FragPunk. It's currently in playtest, I think just for the weekend. Yeah, according to this website, they end on July 2nd, which as I'm recording this voiceover, that is tomorrow, probably the day that I'm uploading this video. This game is developed by a studio called Bad Guitar Studio. From what I can tell, this is actually the only game that they've made. I'm looking on IGN and a list of Bad Guitar Studio games, and this is it. So this is actually a pretty interesting first game for them. Now, what I want to go over this video is what the gameplay for this game is like, whether or not I think it's good or bad, which is subjective, but I will go into detail about my thoughts on the game. And then I want to go even further into detail about some things that I see in the game that I would like to maybe be changed, like balancing issues and small gameplay things, that sort of stuff. And then we'll talk about performance and other things like that. So yeah, if you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and sub. It helps me out a lot. Let's go ahead and get into it. So yeah, like I said, FragPunk is a new bomb defusal game mode. Now the best way I can describe it is if you like Valorant and Call of Duty, if both of those are your favorite games, you're really going to like this game. I'm personally more of a Counter-Strike guy than a Valorant guy myself, but I do enjoy the casual shooter like Call of Duty and Battlefield and that sort of thing. But they do have some different things going on here. Now it is a hero shooter with hero abilities. Each character has 3 abilities, I think. There's some kind of unique ones in here, some ones we've seen in other games before, but for the most part, it's just kind of your average hero shooter. Now the main difference between this game and other games are these cards that you get to pick at the beginning of each round. From what I can tell, the cards are completely random, which to its core can kind of make the game less competitive. There's no real strategy when it comes to the cards. You can kind of just get lucky some rounds and get some really overpowered cards. Some of them are extremely overpowered and actually almost guarantee you a round win. For example, there's this one card where every single teammate on your team can be revived at least once. Every time this card comes up on one team, the team that gets it just kind of automatically wins. I've had moments where our team has killed everybody but one person, and that person went back and revived everybody, and then they just came back and won the round. Now, I don't understand or know every single card yet. This is only a playtest. I only have, a few hours in this game. But there's one other one that I don't really know much about. I've killed a player and then they kind of just like, there's this burning animation and they come back and just come back to life. It seems like they come back to life multiple times unless you shoot them within a certain amount of time. That's kind of stupid to me. I think it's a little overpowered. I don't like the idea of getting lucky and having a card that just completely wins the round for you. There's no skill involved there. It's just complete luck. And for a bomb defusal game, which is naturally a very competitive style of game, I don't think it's a great idea to go with so much randomness. There is an element of that makes the game fun and unpredictable. I understand that, but again, having a card that can just completely win you a round that's completely random, I don't think is a great idea. But there's some really fun ones in here that aren't that big of a deal to kind of give you small advantages, because either side is going to have some small advantage with these cards. So in the big grand scheme of things, they don't really sway the game all that much most of the time. And they're kind of a unique, fun addition to the game that you don't really see in any other FPS game. Now, as far as the actual character abilities go, there's none that are really too extremely overpowered in my opinion, besides maybe one of them. There's this one character, I forget the name of it, I'll put it up right here, that has the ability to actually go completely invisible. There's a lot of abilities in a lot of different FPS games that allow you to go mostly invisible, but I think being able to be completely invisible is never really a good idea for an FPS game. For example, I play X-Defiant. There's a character in X-Defiant that has the ability to go mostly invisible. Now, compared to other games, they're a lot harder to see, but I think that's just perfect. I think they should just be barely visible. It makes it so that it's not impossible to see the target, but they're very hard to hit. So it's kind of more of a gameplay mechanic than just a free kill type mechanic. I think game mechanics that essentially allow you just to get a free kill aren't very competitive and aren't very good for the game in the long run. So this character here being able to go completely invisible is a little much for me. Now, as far as the actual weapons go, they're pretty basic. They have, your SMGs, marksman rifles, assault rifles, shotguns, sniper rifles, different pistol selections, that sort of thing. Nothing too out of the ordinary there, but the way that they do things a little bit differently is they only allow you to use a gun one time until you die with that gun, and then you can never pick it again unless you get one of the cards that allows you to pick any gun for free. And this does carry over from attacking to defending side. So if you, let's say, pick a sniper rifle on the very first round on attacking, if you die with that sniper rifle and then go to defense, you can't pick that sniper rifle again for the rest of the match. Now, I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing. It's very interesting and a very odd choice. I think over time, as this game progresses and more people play this game, we'll see how that actually affects the competitiveness of the game. I don't think I've ever said that word. But for right now, again, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I just want to take some time and see how this actually plays out. I just think it's odd. But in some ways, there is some ways that I found kind of a way around this system. I personally like to use sniper rifles a lot, especially in Counter-Strike. I love the AWP. I use the AWP all the time. So I found myself using this character right here, Hollow Point, and I wouldn't actually run a primary weapon. She has a charge-up sniper rifle with a very low fire rate, but very high damage. The longer you stay in your scope, it kind of does this charging animation. If it fully charges, I think you can one-shot anywhere on the body. So because of this, because it's essentially a primary weapon, I think it has unlimited ammo. I don't need to purchase a primary weapon. I can just run a pistol and then use my Q ability, this sniper rifle. That, I think, kind of makes this game a little bit more interesting. For some of these characters, their main ability can actually kind of be used as a primary weapon. Again, I don't think any of them besides the invisible ability are really too overpowered. So this is actually a good thing in my opinion. I think it makes the game more dynamic, and it's not just your basic Counter-Strike, Valorant weapons. There becomes a odd mixture of different things that can get you killed in the game. And as far as the movement and the gameplay and everything goes, I think it's pretty good. If I were to get this like a score out of a 10, I'd probably say a 7.5 or maybe an 8 out of 10. It feels pretty smooth. The movement's a little bit slow for my liking. I kind of like really fast-paced movement games personally, but it just feels a little bit slow. But when you get a kill, it's very satisfying. And another thing that I found interesting is they actually have a kill cam feature, like Call of Duty style kill cam. Every time you die, you see a 5 to 10 second clip of what happened when you died. Now, a lot of games tend to leave this out because there's a lot of information you can get from kill cams that can help your team. So this is kind of a stylistic choice for them to leave it in the game. Games like Call of Duty do this. There's a couple others that do it that I can't really think off the top of my head, but it does kind of change the way that the game is played. This inherently makes lurking a little bit less viable and kind of tends to push the game in a more in-your-face type playstyle, but only slightly. I still think there's elements of tactics and surprise, obviously, especially with the abilities. Another interesting element of this game is the overtime mechanic that they have. It is the first to 4 to win, but if it comes to 3-3, there's a 1v1 gulag type standoff thing, but with the entire team. 5 players on each side, and they line you up one at a time, 1v1ing. And if you survive the 1v1, you go on to 1v1 the next person with the same amount of health that you had from the previous 1v1. And this was actually kind of interesting. I thought this was a very unique way of dealing with overtime. I wasn't a fan of like 1 or 2 of the maps where it was very close quarters, but they had multiple levels to them. So certain characters, like I used the sniper character, were completely unviable in certain maps because it was all very, very close quarters. You had to be ready to flick up, down, left, and right. So certain characters and certain weapons are almost completely unusable in the 1v1 scenarios. So you're going to want to keep that in mind when you're picking your character and your weapons for this. Now, as far as performance goes, this actually performed pretty well for me. It wasn't at the top tier performance like Counter-Strike or something, or the lowest tier like maybe Escape from Tarkov or something. I was getting on high settings about 150 to 200 FPS, which is pretty good for me. I have a 4070 Ti and a 13700K. So performance was never really something I had to ever think about with this game, which is good. I never really noticed any frame drops, stutters, any significant lag or anything like that. So if you have a decent PC, you won't really have any problems with this game. Now, do I think this game can last as a staple FPS game competing with some of the biggest names in the market? Counter-Strike, Valorant, Call of Duty, Battlefield. I'm not sure. Some things about this game feel a little gimmicky. I do think, again, the gameplay is pretty fun and it feels a little bit unique, but there's not really anything here that's just blowing my mind. It's good, but it's not amazing, I would say. Again, if Valorant and Call of Duty are your 2 favorite games, I would highly recommend checking this game out. This might be the game for you. I don't think this is necessarily the game for me. This is something that I might play with friends, especially friends that enjoy these types of games. I might play it every now and then with them, but this is definitely not something I am personally going to main. But I think it's a good, fun game. and you should probably give it a try, especially since it's free. I think it'll remain free as well, even after the playtest. I think the main game is going to be free. I'm pretty sure, at least. Don't quote me on that. But if it is free, it's definitely worth giving it a shot. Now, funny enough, if you take a look here, they actually already have a battle pass, which I think is very interesting for a game that's in a playtest to already have one. Me personally, I don't really care that much, but if this is the kind of the thing that concerns you, I completely understand. It is a little weird, but there's no pay to win stuff on here. At least I don't see anything pay to win. It just seems to be all cosmetics, which is fine. But yeah, as of right now, there is no planned release date. It is a to be announced release date. So we'll see what Bad Guitar says about this. Now, I'm not Moist Meter, so I'm not going to give this like a rating out of 10 or 100 or whatever. But I will give this a, yeah, sure, try it out. A reminder, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like and sub. It helps me out a lot and it helps me get this video to see more people. And yeah, that's about it. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Just waiting for the 5 red lights to go out.
At least there is
Whistling.
plenty of dust.